Ahoy there, mates! Welcome aboard the VHS pirate ship, and welcome to REEK of the Week! The little show here on the VHS pirate ship where I take a look at different aspects of 80s and 90s nostalgia. Yes, it's a retrospective look back at some of the things that made our childhood so awesome. It's the show that has the sweet stench of childhood memories and reeks of nostalgia. It's REEK of the Week! And today is a very special Halloween edition of REEK of the Week, and we're going to take a look at the McDonald's trick-or-treat pails. Things that pretty much all of us had from a place that pretty much all of us went to help us do a thing that pretty much all of us did, and that's trick-or-treating. However, I never really knew anybody who actually used these for trick-or-treating because the bucket itself was seemingly a little bit too small to hold lots of candy.
I can't carry all my candy.
But these things were still a tremendously good idea and taught us at a young age the value of a good storage receptacle. Even though they weren't really ideal as a trick-or-treating utility, we still used them for storage, such as for art supplies or toys. Place to keep your crayons and your Legos and your Tyco blocks. These things were very useful, though they were hardly used for what they were made for. Never underestimate the power of a good bucket, especially a Halloween-themed bucket from a restaurant that all of us love. It's no secret that McDonald's has always had genius marketing. However, the products, though, sometimes they weren't so good. Such as McPizza. You know, that had potential, but it fell flat. But it was still genius marketing because even though it didn't sell very well and was promptly discontinued, we still remember it. But we're not talking about McPizza, we're talking about McDonald's, and not just McDonald's, Halloween McDonald's! Certainly the most genius thing McDonald's ever did was inventing the Happy Meal. And we all know the gimmick there. You get little kid-sized portions of food with a toy that corresponds with a monthly theme. And in October, you got the trick-or-treat pails. This switched things up a bit because you did not get a toy. Instead, the Happy Meal container itself was the attraction. That's right, the food came in the trick-or-treat pail. And after you got done shoving it in your face, you got a cool bucket. It was a good idea, and the concept worked very well. And depending on how often you went to McDonald's, you could have had a shit ton of these when November rolled around. And there pretty much is an infinity of these still out there. They are very easy to find, but that does not mean that they are cheap. Yep, some folks are selling them for some pretty big bucks, and some folks are buying them for that too. So when did this all start? Well, I'm glad you asked. The original three were first released in 1986. You had McPumpkin, McGoblin, and McBoo. McWho? McBoo. And these were so popular that they were re-released in 1987. And for some reason, McDonald's put them on hiatus in 1988, but they returned in 1989 with a complete remodeling. Yeah, they weren't just pumpkins this time. There was one pumpkin, a witch, and a ghost. And again, these were so popular that they just re-released them in 1990 with some slight makeovers. And in 1991, McDonald's once again put them on hiatus and replaced them with McBoo bags. McWho bags? McBoo bags. Cheap vinyl bags that nobody liked at all. Hardly a substitute for the very popular trick-or-treat pails. It really just wasn't a good idea. But in 1992, the trick-or-treat pails returned with a major makeover and lids that were cookie cutters. That's right, the lids were also cookie cutters, making these trick-or-treat pails even more utilitarian than they already were. 1993 saw yet another hiatus for the trick-or-treat pails. I'm not entirely sure what McDonald's is doing here. We got a product everybody likes. I've got a great idea. Let's stop making it.
Let's do it.
Here.
Wow.
Great idea, Johnson. But in 1994, they were back with a vengeance, and this time they're starting to look a little stupid. Yeah, they weren't all that impressive. I mean, look at that pumpkin. It looks drunk. A drunken pumpkin. And then McDonald's gave them another hiatus, only this time it lasted until 1999. And when they did return, they were awful. Instead of the familiar faces we had all gotten used to, they were these little scenes. Don't get all artsy on us now, McDonald's. Yep, they took a good thing and they ruined it. All right, great idea. We got a product that sells very well. Let's ruin it for no reason.
Wow.
Great
That's
idea.
perfect.
Great idea, Johnson. You're promoted. Once the 2000s rolled around, they just sort of had them and nobody really cared anymore. In 2001, they released them again with another revamping of the concept, and this time, man, they're just awful. They didn't resemble anything from the original concept except that they were a bucket. And again, no faces, just scenes. I really can't explain it, but if you have a face on a bucket, it's fun. No face, no fun, despite how useful a bucket may be. As stupid and as foreign from the original concept as this idea is, it would be an ongoing theme throughout the 2000s. Before all that, though, in an act that I can only imagine was done out of shame, the buckets went on a very long hiatus. But in 2010, they returned with a revamping, and this time they were tied in with Mr. Potato Head. Why? I don't know. So you had Mr. Potato Head themed Halloween buckets.
Oh, that's so avant-garde, man. That's so true.
In 2011, the buckets returned resembling what they once were, but still it was quite humdrum. In 2012, the buckets were paired up with Scooby-Doo. And in 2013, the buckets were paired up with Monster High. Whatever that is. But given the name, I'm sure pairing it up with Halloween makes more sense than Mr. Potato Head. In 2014, the buckets were used as a promotional vessel for The Book of Life, some shitty movie nobody remembers. In 2015, the buckets were paired up with those damn little minions. Man, that's the last thing we needed was more stuff with those little bastards on it. And in 2016, the buckets were paired up with It's the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. And that's it. 2016 was the last year for any kind of McDonald's Halloween bucket. In fact, they've barely even acknowledged Halloween since then, and it's just not as fun as it used to be, much like anything. So as much as the Halloween buckets were beloved, they ended up suffering a slow and agonizing death. Downgraded, jaded, and faded, they slowly and woefully disappeared. So now I ask you, did you like these things? By the time your childhood ended, how many did you have? Do you still have them? Or do you want them? Would you buy them today for these prices? Or are you one of the ones selling them today for these prices? Let me know in the comments below. So that about does it for this special Halloween edition of REEK of the Week. I hope you enjoyed it. Be on the lookout for more Halloween specials as October rolls forth on board the VHS pirate ship. Be sure to hit subscribe and share the shit. Happy Halloween. Take care out there, and I'll see you next time only on Captain Adam's VHS pirate ship.